which is basically very profound change. While you can very picturesque view from the WMO building, everything is calm, greenery. As you know, the things that are happening are quite profound, and the changes that we may face soon are also quite profound. And we thought, instead of having just another event, we thought of also doing something practically, like AI apprenticeship, which will start with a group at 2 o'clock, but also introduce now with the practical reflections. And another aspect is that, and I just heard from our colleague Dan, that there is another community discussing AI in Geneva, in some nice wine tasting bar in the old town. Therefore, we should join them as well. And this is another problem. We have people who are either interested, trying to do new things without talking to each other. And we think that it is important to start exchanging ideas and views. We at Diplo, we are believing that AI is a commodity and that AI needs to be demystified, and that's a powerful tool, and that should empower people, organizations and people to use it and to do something useful. Recently, I wrote the text with provocative title, and I got some negative comments. The title was "Don't Waste the Crisis." You know what's happening. Some of our colleagues are coming from organizations which are directly affected by the mainly cuts of the funding from the United States, but also from a general overall trend. Now, why we have this title, "Do Not Waste the Crisis"? Money is important. Basically, we have to pay bills, and we have to survive in this expensive city. But this change which is happening currently is not only about money. And I would say, as far as the system is concerned, not our individual sort of ideas, the change is much more profound. And it's a change of the way of work of the organization, the modus operandi, not on the level of 90s when typists in the Geneva were a big profession, which disappeared when computers came. We are having now the challenge for the cognitive workers, project managers, translators, policy analysts, and I guess most of you in the room are from that community. And that change will be profound. Now, my argument is, instead of waiting for some sort of new dodge coming to our city, we should act on our own and prepare. And then when reasonable requests that we can expect by Dodge inspired or some other member states coming, hey, we are using AI, we expect you to use it because we need to save some funding. What is very critical is not to be on the passive and the side, trying to dodge the question, not dodge, but try to dodge the question, and being proactive and say, yes, okay, we started AI changes and AI transformation, but AI transformation according to our priorities and according to our values, which are values of multilateralism, public good, in this city, humanitarian tradition, human rights tradition, and all other traditions. And this is essential, I would say. Also, for the leaders of your organizations, they have to step back and, okay, search for money to make the system moving, but also to think about this more profound change. This is overall context for today's discussion. What Anita Lampert, Dr. Anita Lampert, my colleague, and I will try to guide you today through the few points and then often open the space for the discussion, because I'm sure that many of you are already experimenting with AI, using different AI tools, and to see how we can use this half an hour, 40 minutes, to start important brainstorming about the next steps in this context. Anita, we will be basically, this is one of the policy problems which our cartoonist, he was inspired, draw. Everybody wants to talk about AI. And everybody wants to talk about AI and ethics and AI and governance. But in essence, very few people can answer the question, one technical question, what is floating point? And we will be discussing during our apprenticeship this, but there is this huge gap. A lot of AI on the top, very little understanding what AI is basically doing. Next, Nita. Another issue is famous tale, Indian tale, inspired by Indian tale of the elephant and the blind man and woman. And this is what we are seeing. What is AI? Is it machine learning databases, algorithms, automation, money, and that's basically part of the overall confusion that exists. What we are going to do during the apprenticeship program, we will look under the bonnet, but let me just go to the very basics of AI, which is, and I will go quickly through that in Pachakucha style, like a fast presentation that will leave more time for questions and discussion. It's about patterns and probability. I think this is becoming common knowledge these days, patterns, and I always try to explain it on the UN flags. You're passing by the UN, and basically if you take these 193 flags on the table, use the scissor, and you can see the family of flags. You can see the Nordic flags, Belgramo, what is Miranda, Pan-Iranian, Pan-Slavic, Pan-African. Now, you cannot say, so what? This is basically what AI is about. You can start with 193 flags and extrapolate to OpenAI or ChatGPT or another things. The principle is the same. Finding the common patterns in the vast amount of data, flags or texts or whatever you find. The other element is becoming a bit controversial, but my example is 7 or 8 years old about the flag of Greenland, because it became these days controversial because of the, well, you know, the overall context. But Greenland in 1984 wanted to have a flag. And then they found the commission of 25 people, and they said, okay, what should be flag of Greenland? And there were two proposals, this one and this one. This is current flag of the Greenland. This one was, if you follow the patterns, it was the flag because all Nordic countries have the Nordic cross in their flag. Norway, Faroe Islands, Denmark, and others. But the commission voted for 14. 14 votes were for this flag, for whatever reason. It's an interesting story to research about. Therefore, this is a clear patterns and certainty. This is a probability. Now, here we had a human, but sometimes you have in AI also the question of probability. AI will sometimes hallucinate and move from the main pattern to something different. Therefore, around the question of flags, you have explanation of the patterns and probability. Then if you do it with the text, you get the same thousands of the pages of the millions, and then basically guessing machine. National flags are, the question was, what are the national flags? Are symbolic representation, symbolic, and you have the full sentence. This is AI. And the question is that we are sometimes bombarded with the whole concept of neural networks, machine learning, very often using the concept without understanding. But if you boil down any of these concepts, you get to patterns and probability. And that's basically basis of the whole AI systems, in particular large language model. Now I move back closer. This was a bit of abstract, but what is the context for today's discussion and for our apprenticeship program? You can develop AI, I've said one day, but you can develop AI agent in 15 minutes. And that's basically, I tried 13 minutes, 20 seconds based on the document set, but in 10 minutes you can develop it by using OpenAI and other tools. Now the problem is that would be good. It will answer some questions. Probably you will spend more time reading ChatGPT-like answers, you know how they're long, and they won't be for your specific needs. You need approximately 1 month, I say, well, maybe 25 days, to develop AI which is customized to your specific needs, to have documents set, to have a tagging, to give the weights to document. And you need 1 year to integrate AI properly into modus operandi of your organizations. Easy entry point, bit more difficult, but still within your control, rather difficult because you have to change your organization. And here is the first point. AI is not about technology. Yes, you need technology, you need to install something that you use it, but the whole story of AI is about knowledge, change management, and change of organizations. And here the problems start. Most of the procurement in Geneva are seeing AI like another software, like Windows package, you go, well, I'm sure you can reflect more on that. And it's not that, that's the first element when you start introducing AI. It is not something that you can take from the shelf and basically install. You need change of the organization. And this 1 year is a real challenge for the system. It's a real challenge for the whole organizations. What is the problem? Sometimes you will have a consultancy companies coming and selling you 15 minutes or 1 day project for the cost of 1 year, but not delivering 1 year. 1 year requires changes of habits, changes of procedures, capacity building, training, and that's basically much more complex. But for organization, it's much easier. Oh, we have AI agent. It is basically, we are cutting edge organization. You know how spin goes in many systems. Now, we are discussing also impact of AI on the social contract. In Diplo's work, we cover impact of AI and digital on geopolitics, new topics, and new tools. I won't go into that because it's a longer course which we discuss. I will go just briefly before I pass the floor to Anita to what is the core for the UN, how to use AI for this major task that we are facing. Obviously, we are supported and we are based in Switzerland. We have Swiss Knife. This is our humanism approach, combining governance, diplomacy, philosophy, linguistic, arts, and technology. It's basically how to combine human and artificial intelligence, and in particular, how to make clear distinction between data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. If you were around, and my colleague Dejan was let's say, in quite a few projects 20 years ago, the key term at the Versi Summit was information and knowledge. And it is an interesting for journalists like Boris to ask why knowledge and information were basically removed from the lingo of the UN, from the Versis process, World Summit on Information Society. You don't have that, you have only data. Data is a technical concept. Information has additional layer of meaning, knowledge, and wisdom. And this is an interesting for students to see why we completely remove knowledge from the policy lingo and move to data. You have data governance, data sovereignty, and AI is about knowledge. When the OpenAI or DeepSeek, now I will use them, they're in principle, they're the same. When they capture our knowledge, patterns of our thinking, they're basically capturing our knowledge, not necessarily data. Of course they use data. And this is probably the key challenge that we will be facing in policy, also within the organization, understanding that we are discussing the question of knowledge, maybe information. Yes, data is input, but the shift is here and hopefully some wisdom. Let me just explain another point, and now I'm coming from the Diplo perspective. We are a very small organization with very limited funding, and we have a rather well-developed AI system with close to 300 agents. What we realized almost 2 years ago is that we cannot compete here. Quantity of data, large language models, more money, OpenAI, billions. I mean, our annual budget is the daily budget of OpenAI for processing. That's basically the game which you cannot and you shouldn't play. What we insisted on quality of data. Through annotation, system of annotations, through annotation metadata, we basically enriched our data, and we have now 500,000 annotations on the UN documents. If Microsoft, anyone starts doing now UN AI project, they would need approximately 1 or 2 years to find professors, students who will annotate the texts and do that. Now, out of the pure necessity, because we didn't have money, we moved in this direction. And apparently it's going to be the key game. Because they're hitting the scaling ceiling, OpenAI and others, they cannot anymore. You buy more hardware, you buy more processing power, but the added value is limited because they operate on the same data. The battle is here. How to annotate data, how to enrich data and data sets. And that's basically where organizations should focus more than on another model or another tools. Here are a few Diplo tools that we will use. And now if we come to the point, core discussion for today, which I suggested, what are the 3 fields? We can find some other fields where AI is going to impact the work of international organizations profoundly. First one is reporting. Reporting is the name of the game in this city. Diplomats report back to capitals, to the UN, to treaty bodies, from the meetings, from the session. And according to some estimate, vaguely, at least on the level of junior diplomats, 50% of their work is basically some reporting. The more you move to ambassadorial level, the more, I would say the same situation is within the machinery of the UN. There's a lot of reporting. Good or bad news is that reporting is, to the large extent, basically covered by AI because it is text-intensive activity. Well-trained AI, of course, you can do ChatGPT and say, give me the summary of the text and these things. But really, targeted reporting, which brings the context, is basically done. And we have a few examples which we can show from our reporting, from the UN meetings, from the other meetings. And with the current technology, and a very small organization can do fully reporting. This is going to make a profound impact on the United Nations. And we can discuss later on and show the concrete examples, and especially the challenging notes. When I say reporting, okay, you can do ChatGPT, upload a sound recording of the meeting and get good enough report. But the question is how you adjust reporting to the position of your country or your organization or the project. And this is that 1 month or 1 year customization of the AI. Then we have translation and interpretation, another big industry and machinery here in Geneva. How we do translation, you can again use Grammarly, this German DeepL. There are so many tools. By the way, there are now close to 12,000 tools, AI tools and platforms which you can use. Almost, it's every hour you have a new app. Therefore, we can discuss that, but the question is how you do integrate into organization, how you train for the specific type of language, accent, how you train to the acronyms that you use in the interpretation. We discussed with Maya, who is here from WMO and has a long experience in interpretation. That's going to be the major thing, which in my view, this community in Geneva should invest more time than opposing, which is coming big time, automation of language-related activities. Translation is even easier. Interpretation it's more challenging. And then we have the third area, which is, let's say, human resources. What do you do with training, apprenticeship, preparing staff for AI transformation? Not just to have another session telling that AI and ethics, AI is creating bias, this ad nauseum discussion, how AI is dangerous and the other things. But no, something which is very practically down to earth. Those which I propose today are those 3 points, and Anita can give a few reflection on what we do with the AI apprenticeship, and then we can open for discussion and see how we can dive deeper into these three aspects of changes of organization or anything that we presented so far. Anita.
Just change the slides.
Any questions so far? Are you comfortable with this training? You should.
Oh, yes, let's talk about the apprenticeship that will start for a few of you just after this event. So I was also an apprentice with Jovan because to talk about something creates a lot of confusion, complexity, and today's topic is we want to demystify. And what is easier to understand something than just to try it hands-on. There are not so many opportunities to do this really in guidance. But Diplo offers it because we have an own platform that serves like a sandbox where you can build your own chatbots, AI assistants, or agents. What's the difference? We will learn it. So let's have a look. Yeah, and for this edition, we said we will concentrate on international organizations because, as Jovan says, at the core is your knowledge. And how you treat your knowledge is a little bit different in international organizations than in diplomatic missions. So this is why we really concentrate on international organizations. So empowering international organizations, that sounds like the typical hype word, but actually it's really empowerment. My perspective is very much from system thinking. So when you hear the word agent, you might think, oh my God, that's a hype word. Why are they using it as well? Well, it's a word that has been long used in computer science and system thinking. Actually, we are also agents in the human social technological system. So you need to get back your agency, and we show you how. And well, this is our unique approach. We do it hands-on as an apprenticeship. Yeah, learning by doing means you will build something. And here, this picture, I will briefly explain it to you. Here's an engine, and I wrote the LLM engine, so large language model. And what you will do, you will use this and put it into your own vehicle, which is your international organization. How? Well, that's what you will learn with us. You could also make a rocket or a car. So that's what you will learn. You learn to use the large language models as an engine and build around your own design of your own international organization, then your assistant. We will show you how to do it. It's actually pretty easy. You just need to talk to the system, also to your bot. I call it bot, it's the easiest. You tell it you are assistant for whatever you want, your use case. Then you need to instruct this bot how to behave. You answer in a polite tone. And then you also need to instruct the system what data it is allowed to use and how. So this is more or less the magic, how you get all your knowledge into your assistant, bot, or agent. Yes, of course. Oops, where is this? Yes. Oh. Jovan wrote it, also, but I'm happy to answer it. Well, the system learns a lot from your behavior. So the system does not only answer your questions, it learns from you. So this is also why it's so important that you train your own system and not somebody else's. So the way how you act and how you talk to your system tells also a lot about you and your organization. So it's also knowledge that you pass away. Yes. Yes, please.
For people who are online, it was a bit cynical, like many comments from this gentleman. Basically, he worried that millions are spent on thank you. I don't know if we're speaking about millions, but some processing power is used. But the problem is that he gains much more because by saying thank you or some sign of appreciation, you are giving a deeper, even more emotional or sometimes just reflection to the quality of answer you got. Therefore, in trade-off, I think he's gaining much more with this. This, thank you. Strictly speaking, you don't need to use it because you communicate with machine, but approximately, according to this analysis, I think 70% or 80% of people, for different motivations, are polite with machines. Some of them, 12%, are polite because they're worried that if machines take over humanity, they want to be on the good side of history. The others are just out of inertia and these things. And then in that blog, I also analyzed the type of personalities. You have these 5 type of personalities. Are you conflictual? Are you too rational? What level of empathy you have? For example, I'm fully aware that it's machine and it doesn't have agency, but I still slide into thank you. And that's an interesting on various levels, on the levels of AI, on the level of psychology, because AI is becoming mirror in which we are basically seeing ourselves and our personality. Now we'll share the text, but that's basically the answer.
The same applies to some grammatical structures, like in French, vous et tu. In Spanish as well. Well, in English, it doesn't exist. You have you, etc. But this was also one of the topics I've heard about recently.
Thank you, Maya. Then we'll share the link to the text and let's see if we can move deeper. But how many of you are kind with the... Okay. Why are not, Tasso, why are not kind with AI? No. You don't need to. Okay, you are among this about, I think, 15% who are realizing that AI is basically machine and we don't need to be kind. Therefore, you are ecologically driven. Okay, that is new category that we should introduce into thank you.
I asked the AI system another day after uploading a few of my articles and asking it to revise another one, if it could provide the answer in my style, and it did pretty well. So I guess if you say, if you are very strict and very neutral, you will get that back also. Yes. Yeah, I guess that's down to the system prompt, if it will obey you or not. So that's what we will learn in the apprenticeship to really tame your machine, kind of. So yes, this is our Diplo AI platform. I will then later, when I exit the presentation, let you take a look. This is our very new platform. This is where you will create your chatbots, agents, assistants, as you want to call it, and then can use it as a writer, financial agent. I haven't tried that. That's good. And then also what is really great is you can compare the different engines. So you can say, okay, let me see now how GPT 4.0 now produces a text, or any other system, DeepSeek. So you see and really learn how these LLMs produce a text in a different way. Yes, so week 1 is starting today. We will give an introduction on what is AI really about. So more or less going deeper into patterns, probability, predictions, then a good overview on LLMs, neural networks, and very importantly also how AI systems think and operate. So here I have a new idea, so let's see. You will react to it. In week 2, this is what Jovan already indicated. You will see why it makes a difference to build a bot in either an hour or even 13 minutes and a few seconds, or up to a year. Also, what is behind this statement?
This is, I would say, for management of organization critical, for your procurement, for project development, for many other things. Because confusion that exists in this level, whether it is 15 minutes or 1 year, is enormous, and it costs. And it not only costs, when something is sold to you in 1 million, 1.5 million, these systems have to deliver something. They usually deliver by organizing brainstormings. Therefore, you are on lose-lose side. You lose money and you lose the time. And instead of focusing on what really matters, which is the knowledge of the organization. Therefore, that's critical to understand.
Okay, I don't know why this is now not visible anymore. Let's see. Ah, no, here it is. Very good. Yes, and by doing so, you will then learn about more complicated topics like neural network, weights, what is all of this, but it will come very naturally by this hands-on approach. Week 3 is great. We have our cybersecurity here from Belgrade and its impact of AI. So identifying risks, building a toolkit, apply insights to real-world AI use cases. In week 4, we go deeper. And here I also must say the way how we teach is not step by step, but more like in a circle. And then we go deeper and deeper. And again, so you get the overview and then we go deeper and deeper. So don't worry if you don't get any, so not everything at the beginning. So it will come back, correct?
Just maybe
yeah.
That the apprenticeship start developing their own AI. Therefore, while we're bringing security aspects, we'll be explaining on practical examples of their agents. During this session, we will discuss knowledge and data, which include how knowledge and data is represented.
Yeah, week 4 will go deeper into knowledge mapping and data labeling. And I like these pictures here with the birds.
My apology for online participants. I didn't say anything particular except that we'll have a lot of excitement during AI apprenticeship course.
Here, this I like this picture with the birds as well because one of the mantras Jovan keeps saying is, do not emphasize just on the data, it's the knowledge that we need to protect. And here you will really understand why. So the knowledge shouldn't be, in German we say vogelfrei. So just, you know, everyone can take it and use it. So we've covered, yes, more or less what I just said. Week 5, well, here it's really customizing the LLMs, building AI agents. So very much practical work, get your assistant working, always, of course, with the theoretical knowledge and preparing stuff for the AI transformation. So that's very much on you, of course, because you know your international organization the best, and it's you who has the knowledge to transform it. Yes, so that's it. Then we will have the graduation. So we're very much looking forward to having our first international organizations transformations AI experts at the end of this journey. And for all those who at the moment do not have the time to join us, please indicate your interest. We plan to have the next edition hopefully soon.
Thank you, Anita. We have general AI apprenticeship with 2 iterations already. We are running currently one. One interesting aspect is that when you started creating your AI agent, let's call it this way, you basically can share with the public and your friends. Therefore, they can start, or if you can bother your family with it, they can start asking questions and commenting and training through human reinforcement learning. Therefore, the system is basically you're learning, you're creating your agent and say, hey, by the way, I created agent on how the WMO should deal with the climate data or whatever topic. And then you share this with colleagues, they play and they comment, and then you start training the system through the reinforcement learning. Okay, Anita, that's all from our side. Therefore, challenge is reporting, translation, interpretation, and the question of training on preparing stuff. Now, I know that there is a lot of expertise in the room. By the way, how many, I asked already about, thank you, how many of you have developed your own AI agent or chatbot or something like this? Thank you. 1, 2, 3, not that 4, 5, not that many. Okay, time for questions, comments, critical thinking, challenges.
Thanks. For organization, whether they're embarking on a 1-year journey, as you mentioned, to adapt the AI or just simply using ChatGPT, what's the good practice in terms of adopting the organizational strategy when it comes to AI? Is it something you would recommend having a strategy put in place as an organization?
We deal with AI, but then we fail on the basic microphones and batteries. The answer is the following. We followed what's going on, not only in the UN, but also in businesses. We notice that it's more still, we have to do something. We have AI project. Sometimes with good communication strategy, there is a bit of spin. Oh, we are cutting edge organization. No, these things. I'm personally worried about it because very few organizations did not do strategic shift, but asking the key question, what is our strategic asset? Our strategic asset is knowledge of our people. Are we going this knowledge to protect, to evaluate, to use it, or we are going just to install something where that knowledge can be transferred to many places? Therefore, this is the key, I would say, strategic issue. Our organizations, not data, you see, I'm insisting, not data. Our organization are basically evaluating their knowledge as their strategic asset. What I have found so far across the projects, pilot projects in the UN system, is mainly that there is no careful thinking about that aspect. Knowledge of our people, knowledge of our system, creating in a way perpetuum mobile, where people through reinforcement learning will be basically enriching that knowledge. It's usually going to the shortcut, mainly also due to the procurement procedures. Let's rent it, find an external company, consultant. Sometimes they can raise awareness, and there is always something useful for that. But I'm open to be convinced differently. But what I have found, not in scientific way, but through interaction with the colleagues from New York, from Vienna, from Brussels, I found that this is approach. We have to do something with AI, send the procurement, find the external provider, very often charging for 1 day project, sometimes 1 month or even 1 year, but this is another story. Find the external consultants come, few brainstormings. Okay, we have the AI system. Okay, it's there, nice opening session. And that's basically how it works. And I think because of this moment, do not waste the crisis, it has to change. It has to be empowerment of people, preserving knowledge, building capacity. And this is, I would say, critical not only for us, I'm a bit older, waiting for retirement, but especially mid-career in junior people, it's important personally for you. It's important for organizations because some countries will start asking the questions. Why do you pass the knowledge and our data to this company? Whether it is US, China, France. But there will be a question. Why you don't, as the UN system, do not create your own AI? Because if Secretariat is biased, the question of impartiality of the UN is challenged, and it can be very, very tricky political question. Therefore, there are different levels of this, but I can't, unfortunately, I haven't heard of the good project. I heard, for example, on the diplomatic services, the US, they made a presentation, they use open source Llama internally, and that's really an interesting project, how they do basically cultivating the knowledge of their own people, which is their own asset. Okay. More questions, comments, disagreements?
I'm at from WHO, and right now we're obviously, as everyone knows, facing massive job cuts. And I'm thinking how, even after, like I saw this, your website, maybe, well, you sent the invitation. I thought this is something that could be really useful for us. But then I've been wondering, and I think maybe we'll learn more, but how do we, as I'm working in the communications department, I don't have we won't have any budget to do the kinds of things that we probably would need to transform the organization. But I would love to hear and discuss with others how we can take this to the next level and actually change, or change the institutional kind of. I mean, it's a heavy institution that's obviously UN style, kind of. It's very hard to get even standard things procured. So to do something differently that's a bit risky, maybe is challenging. Even though things have been changing in that direction, I think it's tricky with this current cut. Like, we won't have the people to think differently, because everybody will be hunkering down, saying, okay, we have to just get our work done. I mean, I don't think you've got the answer, but I'd just like to say that's what I would like to get out of this course, is to help me think, how do we take it to our managers and say, this is what we actually need to do to work in the new world. Did you?
That's the critical question, but please, you're also from WHO?
Yeah, so we are in
Okay.
solidarity on this opinion, because it's about how do you build a ship and sail it at the same time while also facing acute resource crunch. So would you have any key takeaways from this course? Maybe that's...
Let me slight disagreement. Times are exceptional, and I think we have to speak with utmost clarity. I don't think it requires major resources. It requires some resources, but not the major resources. Major change. That's one point. Second point, you mentioned the ship. I would go even more radical. You have to fix the plane while you're flying. That's basically even more dangerous. Your mechanics who have to go out of the plane and fix the wings and whatever. That's even, I would say, more radical. That's something which we, through the course, can come to some insights and wisdom. But my point would be, what I can give you as immediate answer: avoid basically passing your knowledge to external actors. A. B. Find the champions of the change in the system. Don't go massive change. Find the small oasis where you have a good manager, interesting manager. 2. 3. Explain to people that it's not just another course or another apprenticeship, whatever you call it. It is a matter of investing into the personal future. That's career. You're in charge of data and communication. Without knowledge of AI, I'm sorry to say, but all social media skills are basically getting rusted. Therefore, you make this combination of communication and avoid this, and prepare your management when they have the next big company, consultancy, tech companies, coming from outside to ask right questions. Between 15 minutes and 1 year, and is this project going to help us save jobs, do more effective work, and basically preserve our knowledge within the organization? This is, for me, let's say, this off the cuff 4 or 5 points that I would advise. And another one is sandbox. Create a sandbox. Because the big problem with the IT systems now is that you personally use ChatGPT. You use the system, you go to the organization, they tell, no, you cannot use it on our, I don't know how is the situation in your organization, but in many ministries of foreign affairs, they said, you cannot use this system. I say, hey, by the way, I'm using it at home and I cannot use it here. This is a huge challenge, this bridge between, and sandboxes are useful. Create a sandbox, explain people, don't upload confidential documents, let's say. Be aware that when you ask the question, somebody else would collect it, and create a safe sandbox where people will go and play with but within the institutional arrangement, till you create the system that can mimic ChatGPT or DeepSeek, and you say, now you have internal system. When you ask the question, when you ask to summarize documents, you're also helping building the institutional knowledge and memory. That's basically what would be my advice. Question?
Yeah, a couple comments and questions. You know, when I entered in, we talked about the fractured nature of Geneva and also the humanitarian development space in general and IOs. You know, it's a very fractured space. Knowledge sharing and alignment and shared resources is always being a big challenge. So one, how do organizations start to show how they've had huge, small projects with big impact, huge impact that they can share and be trailblazers to help other organizations that are in this perennial inertia. To a lot of policies and procedures are things people use to hide behind to secure their own positions of power and influence, which are at the neglect of securing the future of organizations as well. So, and third, how do you create a community of practice that's going to support addressing those two things as well?
Let me start with the third one. You mentioned the group, which is meetup group, which is meeting in the nice wine cell in the old town. First, you may invite us there, but then we will invite them here. We can offer some sandwiches and some water, but that would be nice. No, I'm joking, but this is the question, and you can be. What is very important? This is a new profession, especially for young people. Boundary spanner. Who is boundary spanner? You were at our meeting today. I don't know what is your background, humanitarian, IOS. You go to tonight to the old town, and you tell them, hey, like you told me, hey, there is this community, and you start acting as a boundary spanner between two communities, especially in Geneva. Two sides of the River Rhone are basically two worlds, left and right. But when you think carefully, and I'm coming to the answer to the other questions, when you think carefully, you have this. We call it silos, and I'm not against this. I'm not for dismantling silos. It's very human. We tend to go to the wine cellar or come here or socialize with people whom we know. That's very human, especially if you study together, if you have the same profession and other things. But the problem is not to dismantle silos, which is lingo, typical lingo in the international organization, is to bridge silos. You can be boundary spanner and bridge between two communities. And it's fantastic when you tell them, listen, these people meet at WMO and they discuss international organization. Why we don't come with them or you come with this? No, you can have it between interpreters and translators community and knowledge community, between climate change and trade communities. That's basically the challenge. Geneva does not communicate to each other. We did analysis of 120 million hypertext links on all websites in Geneva. We use it as a proxy and say how many of each of these links point to the other Geneva-based organization. And percentage was shocking, was 4%. Therefore, 4% of the websites, let's say, of WTO points to WHO, or WMO, or to Diplo, or to Geneva. That's basically a proxy. We can say we will have a coordination working group and how it works, but in reality, it doesn't work. And we have silos which are basically quite deep. The third question that you ask, how to make this change, I think the member states will start asking questions. And this is when it comes to money, and this is a pressure. I'm not speaking about the current dynamics with the United States, which we all know, but there will be, we confuse two things. Political aspect of this latest change from the Trump administration with basically reality what's happening. AI is going to influence with US administration or without. There will be other countries asking, by the way, I don't know, Spain, France, we're using AI, we cut our stuff, we want to see how UN will be more efficient and effective. There are many problems with that logic, but there will be, I think that will be the pressure. Now, the real thing is, are we going to be strategic and proactive and prepare our roof for the storm? Or we are not going to be? Now, I'm a bit pessimistic on that side because inertia is so powerful. People feel under the siege, jobs are lost. Atmosphere in organizations is basically what it is. I'm not very optimistic about that. But I think member states will basically ask the questions. And that will be the point of the truth, which I would say will come faster than later. Now, the problem here is, if these questions are asked with a political connotation, that's a problem. But if these questions are asked, okay, we want to preserve Geneva's humanitarian, human rights, pro-development, public good atmosphere. Oh yes, we should do it more efficiently, but we want to preserve core values. If the two reforms, pressure to cut the cost because of AI and policy, are conflated, which are to some extent these days, for example, in the reform in the United States, that could be a problem because then UN will be changed profoundly. That's for me the biggest. But being around for quite some time on this funny rock in the Milky Way, I'm afraid that inertia will prevail. Till this moment where basically member states will raise the hand and say, we want to cut the funding for this because it can be done in different way. And they would be right. Some good, some bad news, but you should invite us to your wine club, you know. Okay. Good. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, I guess.
Myself, Adrian, I'm interning for Millennium at UNIS. I just have a question. It's actually a challenge because I actually built all those apps and we implemented at UNIS a lot of digitalizing tools. So one biggest challenge I have is since we're using OpenAI, like the open source, like Lambda, in my model, I use Lambda and you were using OpenAI and GPT-4 model. So we're just doing the prompt engineering and we're going to train the model, which is from a third party. So the data will be stored outside UN. So which is not very, we cannot put any sensitive information, even though we have their own model. It will be stored outside. So why not we build like all the IO international organizations comes together. We build from a scratch, from a BERT model. We build it for us and then we use it. So we can like have the full authority and we have control over it. So no one, maybe in few years, the OpenAI CEO might have something against UN because he knows what we are searching at. Also, like what if we build like a small data center and we store all sensitive information? That's one. And the second is I also have like a lot of ideas with blockchains, like how we can implement. But every time I approach someone, even though idea was legit, they had like, they didn't want to come up with some certain things because they don't have like much technical experience on how does this work and how to do it. So what's the possibility, even though the young people are still have so much intelligent with AI and, have the power to build it, but also they don't have opportunity to come forward and build it?
The answer to your first question, common sense. Start it, push it. You will have a support. I can write the blog post because it's so common sense what you said to keep the data on the site, and it's not technically impossible. Let me put it in this way. I think we can, even Diplo, although we're such a super small organization, we can help with some of these tasks. We're not speaking about we're speaking probably of the cost at the end of the day of maybe 200, 300 US dollars per month. Now, if you go through the system of decision making, that will probably take, based on my experience, 1 year. There will be committees, there will be external consultants, who will consult consultants, and then it will take. Therefore, try to do it. Now, you're not in the best position. Being intern, it's not the best position, but you're also probably, I'm mentioning you asked the question, you're probably the most precious asset of the organizations. And I invite organizations to look for people like, your name is?
Adrian.
Look people like Adrian and empower them, give them a sandbox, see what they do, present to the leadership of organization, and that's critical issue. Will it work? I don't know. I'm basically also delivering presentation to heads of organization with the same message. Find the resources, find Adrians in your organization and empower them and give them a chance and listen carefully to them. And that's basically stronger message. On the first one, yes, it is basically, I don't see the reason why you're uploading it. We can discuss, maybe we can give you some of these.
What we're doing now is like a short-term solution. But if you're looking for like 10 years ahead, we need to have like a proper foundation now. So at least at 10 years, we'll have like a proper AI system for UN and the international organizations.
Okay.
Because it will, as you said, like 1 day, 1 month, 1 year. But if you're building from the scratch, it's going to take a lot of time. But we are already late, but it's not too late. We can still start from the scratch.
Sure. Don't go for a big schema. Start with the practical, bottom up, and do it. Today with us is Dan Dinchich, the colleague of mine who did an inspection of the all UN data systems. He's sitting over there with hat, and he has a lot of wisdom there. We will invite him in some of our future sessions to give us this practical answer, what it works. But what it boils down, and we will close and move to our classroom with the apprenticeship session. It boils down, based on your question, is not about technology. It's not even about the motivation. It's about organizational change. And probably during this apprenticeship, we have to put a lot of wisdom in giving some sort of advice based on the reality. You cannot tell, oh, why you don't create a startup out of WHO? It won't work. And it shouldn't work. WHO has a function to represent countries are represented there. There is a function which is symbolic and political, which we should not underestimate. But within these parameters, we can do quite a few changes, and I think we should inspire that, at least that we should not waste the crisis, and there are alternatives. That would be probably two messages, and have more of your colleagues joining, our interns joining this type of briefings. Anita?
I think it's time for us to move on to the apprenticeship. So thank you so much for your interest in our Demystifying AI event, and for all those who will learn with us. We will go down to the second floor to our office. It's a little bit of a more private setting to then start with our first session.
In best regards to our online followers.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, here I'm too far away, joining us online, and please send us feedback per email if you have any questions, because we could not invite them today to join also with questions.
Good,
So
thank
we
you.
can pick it up later. Thank you.
Wow.